welcome to Real Film Snobs. I'm Angela Yeager. I am joined again today by fellow guest host Ernie Quiroz. Welcome to the show, Ernie.
Welcome. Thank you, Angela.
Yeah, nice to have you back again. So, for those who may not remember, Ernie was on the show before, and he is the one who has my dream job. So, I have him on just so I can be jealous. Ernie is a film programmer and works on a lot of different film festivals across the country. And I think right now we were just talking before we started taping. He's working on film festival, right, for Tucson, for the Loft Cinema, and the Santa Barbara Film
Yep. And
Festival.
for
So,
Santa Barbara, those lots will be in November. Santa Barbara will be next year. So always watching movies, always programming for one festival or another. Yeah.
someday.
You
Anyway, I love it. I would love it. I mean, I watch hundreds of films a year, but no one pays me to do it, so I would love to do it. So,
well, I mean, there's upside and downside to everything. So we won't talk about the downside, but yeah, no, it's fun. It's a good gig if you can get it.
yeah, well, I'm sure part of the downside is you have to watch a lot of horrible movies, I'm sure at times too, and and a lot back to back, and so until your eyeballs bleed. So I could imagine that. But I've done that too for the show. I've reviewed a lot of bad movies. In fact, just the previous episode, I reviewed a really bad movie from Netflix. So later on in the show, we're going to talk a little bit about the Telluride Film Festival, which you had the opportunity to be a screener for, and then you also attended this year. But we're going to start the show with a movie you and I were both excited to review, which is The Card Counter, directed by American auteur Paul Schrader. And this stars the great Oscar Isaac, who is absolutely fantastic in this movie, as a former military interrogator who is turned into a gambler. And he is forced to confront his past when he takes on a young protege played by Ty Sheridan, who has some secrets of his own. Without giving too much away, because I have to admit, I did not know where this movie was going. There is also a star turned by Tiffany Haddish, who plays. I guess she's sort of like someone who works with gamblers. I don't know what her actual role was, but she sort of develops a bit of a love relationship with Oscar Isaac's character. Paul Schrader has spent quite a few decades now exploring issues of redemption, spirituality, and he is really focused on these singular men who are very closed and contained. There were scenes in this movie that reminded me of scenes in his last movie, First Reformed, with Ethan Hawke. A man sitting alone with a glass of whiskey at a table and one light, writing in a book. He did that in First Reformed as well. I liked this movie. I did not like it as much as First Reformed, which I just kind of blew me away when it first came out. With so many of one of the things he does that I think is pretty interesting is he's able to take these seemingly disparate themes and tie them together. So in First Reform, you had the Catholic priest who is having this kind of existential crisis, right? Who's also confronting issues of climate change. Two things you wouldn't necessarily think go together, although they end up really going together. In this film, you have this character who's kind of taking on these issues of torture that happened during the Iraqi and Afghanistan wars by the American military, and then combining that with, his own kind of like philosophical journey in the world of gambling. Not two things, again, you would think would go together. In fact, I think I messaged you while I was watching it because the beginning of the film, I thought, oh, it's like Hard Eight, because I thought of, this older, experienced gambler taking on this young protege. And then it went lots of directions I did not think it would go. So I can recommend it. I'm curious to hear what you have to say, Ernie.
I would say it's a mild recommendation. I agree with you in that it's not as strong as First Reformed. I mean,
Yeah.
First Reformed, I think, was my favorite film of the year that it came out. That was another one that I saw at Telluride. I think with Lady Bird, very odd. I think those films were tied for my favorite that year. Um, I again, Card Counter, I kind of went in blind. I like kind of going into films not knowing too much about them.
Yeah, I had
So
no idea.
yeah, I agree with you that it did kind of go in directions that I wasn't anticipating. I slightly disagree with you in the sense that I don't think he tied these different themes together as well as he did in other films. I felt tonally, I felt like Tiffany Haddish and Ty Sheridan were the different movie altogether. Like the acting, Tiffany Haddish, she's a great actor, but when you're have to do a scene with Oscar Isaac, I mean, you're not gonna. It's tough to hold a scene together with Oscar Isaac, so I don't think that she was capable of doing that.
Hmm.
And the Ty Sheridan storyline at first seemed a little, it just seemed very light and almost comical when compared
Yeah.
to the Oscar Isaac storyline. And so I felt like there were these odd shifts in tone, especially with the romance angle. I don't want to spoil it too much, but for me, that didn't work as well as I think he hoped it would. Um,
Yeah, and it's not that she's not a great actor. I just think it was the movie itself is so serious and so grim in parts, quite honestly, that when she comes on screen, Tiffany Haddish is one of these people that just sort of lights up the screen when she walks in. And so when she would
yeah,
walk on, even when she wasn't being funny or anything, I would think, oh, something exciting is going to happen in a positive way, you know? And then it's like, oh no,
yeah.
we're still in a Paul Schrader movie. This isn't going to end well. So I'm trying to remind myself of that.
I don't know if she was miscast isn't the right. I would say poorly cast. I think that may be a casting decision, not her fault at all. But I
Hmm.
think yeah, because you see her, she is a comedian. She's coming with that baggage of being a comedian. So just her presence sort of
Yeah.
implies comedy, which I think tonally did not fit with the sort of the main storyline.
Yeah, and one
Uh,
thing I thought is that maybe his character was really attracted to her because of the lightness in it. She's very honest, you know, person. She's kind of upfront with him, and he's obviously not being honest. He has a lot of secrets in his background, and so I think maybe there was something about how open she was that was attractive to him. So that I could kind of see. I agree with you about the Ty Sheridan part. The young kid who comes along, I kind of thought, wow, what a coincidence. He meets this guy, we didn't even get into Willem Dafoe's character, which is very small, but he's brought in. And so, yeah, I think I can recommend it. It's a 3-star film for me. We do like a 4-star on our show, but so it's, you know, it's a slight recommendation. Definitely not a first reformed. The thing I think that carries the movie is really Oscar Isaac. He
oh yeah, for
is
sure.
such a great actor, and he always is great, but he rarely gets the chance to really just dig into a full character study like this. And I just love that Paul Schrader's still trying to make these kind of movies in this day and age where it's just about a person's, you know, journey and their
Mhm.
kind of, you know, spiritual and existential journey. And you don't really get that much in the cinema. And there's some great photography and shots. But when he first sat down with the drink and the light and the writing in the journal, I thought, oh, here we are again. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's
Um,
another. That's yeah. I think that was another. You know, man in existential crisis writing his diary. Like we
yeah,
got that with Taxi Driver like 40 years ago. Like, do we
right.
need to see that again? So that was a little, you know,
I thought some of actually the most powerful scenes were the scenes where they go back to the prison where the torture is happening, and he uses, I thought, the fisheye lens actually very effectively in
yeah,
those
yeah,
scenes
for sure.
to make it very distorting and terrifying. And I thought those scenes were quite powerful actually to show
Yeah,
kind of this mental torment that he has. Like if you've done something like this in your life, how do you live with that? And kind of, I just think there was a lot of really good things he could have unpacked there, but this whole like part of the gambling thing kind of almost um, kind of just takes you away from that. So,
yeah. No, I agree. I agree that, and I liked how he used it sparingly. It was only maybe like 3 or 4.
no, it's not like the whole movie or anything,
Yeah, and
or like no sudden move.
yeah, you just kind of hinted at this dark thing that happened to him, and you slowly, that's almost. I don't think that the first flashback or whatever doesn't happen until like halfway throughout the movie. So you're sort of sitting here with this character of like, what is going on with him? Why is, how did his life end up this way? And it's slowly revealed, which I thought was great. And like I said, tonally, it just didn't click with the other stuff in the film for
Yeah,
me.
yeah. Okay, good. Well, I'm really glad I saw it still. I'm still interested in what Paul Schrader has to say. You know, he's a crank and I enjoy a good crank. So I love reading stuff that comes out about his blogs. He recently went off on Clint Eastwood and that was a lot of fun. He's a great film critic. You know, he could get a side gig just
Oh
doing
yeah,
that, you know,
he's
because he's such a good writer.
for sure, yeah.
So our next movie is another one that I've been hearing a lot about, and I think you saw it quite a while ago, and I was just excited to finally get to review it. It's called Coda, and it is about a young woman who is, and Coda stands for Children of, oh boy, I should have written this down.
If
Children of
adults,
deaf adults, deaf adults. Yes. So she is the youngest child of a family. Her parents and her brother are all deaf, and she is not, and she has a love of singing, and this puts her at odds with her very close knit family. Her father is a fisherman who is kind of struggling to make his way. as you know, the fishing industry is having difficulty. And she has kind of a tension-filled dynamic with her mother, who is played by the great and very underutilized Marlee Matlin, who I think almost steals the movie away. So I've been hearing a lot of buzz about this movie, so I was really curious to see it. And I was really, and at the beginning, I loved probably the first 20 or 30 minutes of this movie because I thought, oh, it's like a quirky coming of age story, but it's smart and it's funny. And then it goes off into this kind of what I like to call the Fox Searchlight coming of age Sheen type movies like Earl and the Dying Girl stuff, where we start to get these inspirational moments. And she has this music teacher who believes in her, and he thinks she's the best thing since sliced bread, even though I thought her voice was just kind of like okay. But and then she starts to pursue a degree or a career in music, and that puts her more at odds with her family. And I was actually pretty disappointed in this movie. I cannot recommend it, even though I really, really wanted to love it, actually.
I am surprised that I liked this movie so much.
It's a real feel good one.
It's a feel good crowd pleaser, which I say crowd pleaser only slightly as an insult term, you know. I fell for it. I there Yeah, you're right. The first 20-30 minutes are it hooks you. I mean, yeah, it is sort of predictable. It is sort of I mean, there's a lot of cliches, and it hits all the beats that you expect it to hit. And even the basic premise is sort of cliche of like, oh, the parents are deaf, but she can hear, and of course she wants to pursue a career in singing that her parents can't possibly understand because they're deaf.
Hmm.
But you know what, even with all that, it worked for me. I have to say, I did enjoy it. I did see it at Sundance, which was a virtual screening, so it was the opening night film. um, and then it was opening night film for the Phoenix Film Festival, which was maybe like a month ago.
Hmm.
And I went to see it again only because I wanted to see it with an audience, only because it is, like I said, it is an audience
It seems like a
pleaser.
crowd type of movie. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the kind of movie, you know, that's one of the kinds of movies that if you can see it with an audience, you know, you get that energy. You feel that, you know, you laugh together, you cry together.
Yeah.
So for me, it worked. There were a couple of scenes. I don't know if people read the AV Club. AV Club puts out at the end of the year, one of their end of year lists is our best scenes of cinema. I honestly think there's a couple of scenes in this movie that are gonna make that list.
Really.
I think when the music teacher asks her, "Why do you like to sing?" and at first she just can't articulate it. She's like, "Well, I like to sing, and like I can't say it." And so he pushes her of like, "Well, why do you like to sing?" And she can't articulate it with words, so
So she
she
starts
starts
signing.
signing. She does these gestures,
Yeah.
and it's just a beautiful moment. And to me, it was like, you know, describing what it's like, what music is like, non-verbally, you know, and
Hmm.
that's how she learned to communicate. But sort of, you know, yeah, how does it feel to listen to music? What does that do to your heart and your soul? That's hard to articulate in words, but you can do it non-verbally. So that scene I thought was really, really powerful. So
Yeah, and there was a couple great scenes like that. I agree. And I thought the parents, I mean, I almost wanted to just watch that. I thought they were terrific. I thought they were way more interesting than she was. Marley Matlin and Troy Kotzer, who plays the father, I just loved him. He's this kind of gnarly, you know, fisherman, kind of a hippie, smokes a lot of pot, you know, and the mom and him have this great, like, fiery relationship, very physical still. They just felt like real people. And I
yeah,
liked that. Whereas her character felt like a movie that was yanked out of another coming of age movie and thrown into this one more to me. And her boyfriend, especially, as soon as he appeared, I was like, he wasn't even, and then they're paired together to sing a duet, and he's not even a very good singer. I was like, oh my gosh, they just found like this generic white boy that they could stick in as the love interest. And he just seemed kind of bland to me, like not as interesting as her family at all. But I just thought the parents were great. I was like, let's just watch a movie about how they got together in their life. So
yeah, no,
anyway,
yeah, I agree with you on that. That they're far more interesting, and I think more nuanced and more depth to their characters than.
yeah, every time they came back on, I was excited. I'm like, oh, good, we're back to the parents. Let's get away from these teenagers.
And I don't want to spoil it too much, but the climax of the film, where of course it's coming down to the big recital, you know, the big
Yeah.
show or whatever, that, you know, that's predictable. Um, But when you see that, she gets up on stage, she starts singing, you then switch perspectives to the parents' perspective. You sort of have this shot from behind them, behind their heads, and all of a sudden the audio drops down.
That was a great scene when the audio
And,
goes away.
and you see them, and you're like, of course, yeah, they have no idea how she's singing. I mean, here they are, they're supportive parents, they want to support her, they are supporting her, but they don't know, they can't experience it like other parents. And then the audience starts clapping, and sort of that's their cue to clap, because they don't know that she finished. They just see other people clapping, so they start clapping. And it's this would be the climax for any other movie, and yet we're not being able to participate it in the way that we typically would, because we can't hear it, because that's how the parents are experiencing it.
Yeah, and they're trying to give us that outsider perspective. I just wish they had done more of that, like given us, taken out the cliches and really gone more for kind of an original vision. Because I think there were some good ideas here that I would have loved to have seen explored more. So anyway, so a little bit of a disappointment for me, but especially considering all the buzz around it. But I think also people really want a feel good movie right now, and this one definitely kind of serves that purpose, like a feel good movie that they don't have to feel guilty about seeing. Yeah, so
I would say, yeah, if I would still recommend it. Not going to be groundbreaking, not going to be, anything particularly earth shattering or whatever. But I think, yeah, it's just a feel good movie, and
definitely
I,
entertaining.
I am shocked that I'm recommending a feel good movie.
Hey, even though those of us who are film snobs have to give in once in a while, we all have our guilty pleasures, right?
Yeah,
So,
I do have a heart after all. I am not being
yes, it,
stoned.
yes, yes, we'll find my heart one of these days. This one wasn't it. So, okay, so now I'm really excited to hear about your next segment. So, Ernie, we are calling this segment Ernie's picks for best of the fest. You're going to talk about the Telluride Film Festival. So, hit us off here with this.
Okay. So I saw almost 20 films altogether for the festival, which was an uptick. They added an extra day, so that was great. We were able to watch some extra films. So if people don't know, Telluride is one of the fall festivals where the studios get to launch sort of their fall prestige films. So all the films I'm talking about, hopefully people will be able to see in the weeks and months to come. I'll start with what, again, I'm shocked by this. What I thought was the best film of the festival, and what I think is the best film of the year so far for me that I've seen out of 500 plus films, is the movie Spencer.
Ah,
This is Twilight girl. What's her name? I can't remember her
Kristen
name.
Stewart. Please don't call her Twilight
Kristen,
Girl.
yeah, Kristen Stewart as Princess Diana. I never thought in a million years this would be my favorite movie, but it is. And I wasn't a big fan of Jackie. I don't know what you thought of Jackie.
I was really disappointed because it was
Yeah,
just like the critic buzz was huge.
yeah,
Same
yeah.
director, I know.
I
Yeah.
think I think I agree with you on that with Jackie. Similar ideas in that, this is not a standard biopic, and I think it's interesting. A lot of people that I talked to that were, and I'm not a royal watcher. I'm not one of these. I don't care about the royal family. I don't watch all these shows
Yeah.
on Netflix. I'm not that person.
You're not watching The Queen and all that. Neither am I. So,
Well, I did watch the movie The Queen, but I don't watch The Crown. I don't watch.
no, I mean, yeah, the TV series. That's what I
Yeah,
meant. Yeah.
but I don't watch all the tabloid stuff and who's having a baby and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's kind of why I was shocked by it. But it's interesting that the people that I talked to, the ones that are that sort of royal watching people, were kind of disappointed by the film. I think they were expecting sort of a straight up sort of biopic, and it's not that at all. It definitely has elements of magical realism. It's not what I call, what I said is that it's not factually true, but emotionally true.
Hmm.
I think it takes place over 3 days. Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and Boxing Day in, I believe, 1991. And you really see this woman sort of crushed underneath hundreds of years of tradition and monarchy, of expectations of what she needs to be, and at the end of the day, she just wants to be a mother. She just wants to be a mom. And she's sort of, you get the sense that she's just trapped in this gilded cage that she did not see coming, and you get to feel that. You get to see that. So almost in real time, sort of her life just, get away from her.
And you
Uh,
liked Kristen Stewart as, I wondered how she pulled off the accent and everything.
she transforms herself, and she's not the Twilight girl anymore. And I haven't seen any of her French films that she's done. I haven't seen.
Oh, really? She's terrific in all of this. All
Yeah.
the Oliver Assayas films, fantastic.
Yeah, so I haven't. So for me, it was sort of a revelation to see her transform this way. So I thought, overall, yeah, I remember going into the screening. A friend of mine on Letterboxd, who's also a film critic, he gave it 5 stars on Letterboxd, and he rarely gives 5-star films. He's maybe does like 2 films a year, 5 stars. He gave it 5 stars, and I'm watching. I'm thinking, like, what is he thinking? 5 stars? Oh no, he's crazy. And about 20 minutes in, I'm like, wow, this is really good. He's like,
Yeah.
that's right. And there were a couple of scenes where just the filmmaking, where you really get to experience her, again, emotionally, what she had to have gone through. I mean, it was just, it moved me to tears. It really did.
Oh, so it sounds like
Yeah.
it was more emotional than the Jackie movie, because I think my issue with Jackie and what he was doing in that film, which also had a very experimental feeling to it, it was just a few days with Natalie Portman. There was a couple things with that one. One, Natalie Portman didn't really remind me at all of Jackie. That was part of my issue. It took me out of the film a bit, but also it just felt very removed. Like I didn't feel emotionally attached to the character. So it sounds like in this one he was able to get that emotional aspect.
Yeah, yeah, no, I feel, I totally agree with you. Yeah. Jackie didn't do it for me, but I think this did. So,
Yeah, it had some good visuals, but yeah, so I'm excited to see that one, and that one's coming out pretty soon, I think.
it's coming out in,
The
I think
big Oscar, they're saying it's basically Kristen Stewart's to
yeah,
lose, that she's
it's
the
still
favorite.
exactly. So, we'll go real quick on some other
Okay.
films. One that I was disappointed, I did see The French Dispatch by Wes Anderson, movie that's kind of been out or was supposed to come out over a year ago. I didn't, I haven't been a Wes fan for a while now. He's getting a little old. I'm getting a
Hmm.
little tired of his shtick. And this for me didn't work at all. And that was sort of the consensus. I think I only ran into 2 people that really liked the movie. Everyone thought it was very narratively dense, and just, it was very visually dense. There's just a lot of stuff. It's a lot of production design, costume. It's just all
He's
style.
getting too far of the style over
Yeah,
substance. I think,
yeah,
in my opinion, his last great film was Royal Tenenbaums in terms of great films,
yeah.
where he managed to, before he jumped the shark and just went totally into, I'm going to art direct the heck out of every movie, and that's
I
all I'm
totally agree with
focused
you.
on, and
I
have this cast of celebrities walk through the movie.
And that was another
So,
thing. Yeah, that was another thing that I was in French Dispatch. It was almost distracting of like, okay, where's the Bill Murray character? Okay, where's the Ed Norton character? Where's the,
Tilda
you know,
Swinton, or yeah,
I
his usual.
kind of kept wait, because you kept waiting for all of them to pop up, his little troop.
Yeah,
Um,
which is some of the
so
issues I thought Grand Budapest had as well. So that's interesting.
real quick, we're running out of time. The Power of the Dog. Benedict Cumberbatch was in 2 movies. Power of the Dog was by far the best one. That's a Jane Campion movie.
Yes,
Western,
love
sort
her.
of takes place in the 20s. He's sort of like this very gruff, and he's basically
Oh,
of a cowhand. Wonderful supporting cast: Jesse Plemons, Kirsten Dunst, Jane Campion, return. Maybe my second favorite film after Spencer. Red Rocket, the Sean Baker film, was
no, I want
amazing.
to hear what you have to say about Red Rocket, because Haley
Yeah,
didn't like it that much. So tell me.
but oh yeah,
You know, I'm a
it's not.
huge
Yeah,
fan of his.
it's not going to be to everyone's taste, because it is about an ex porn star who's trying to get back into the industry, played by a real life ex porn star. There are some scenes that are maybe a little tough to watch, as he's he's maybe like in his 30s, sort of an aging porn star and kind of down and out. And he sees this girl who's very young and sort of sees her as a way back into the industry. So you kind of see him grooming her, and it's very uncomfortable and very, it's not an easy watch, but I think really interesting, really well acted by non-professionals. Belfast, the Kenneth Branagh movie, was not a fan. I felt it was very derivative of Roma. But that's getting some buzz. King Richard, also not a fan. That's the Will
Is that
Smith,
the Will Smith? Yeah.
where he's playing Venus's and Serena's dad. I was like, I want to see a movie about Venus and Serena, not necessarily their dad. The dad was a little crazy. Petite Maman, that's from the director of Portrait of a Lady on Fire. That was excellent.
As good as Portrait of a Lady, or step below that?
A little step below, yeah. But I mean, you're coming off of Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Yeah, so. That's true.
The Lost Daughter, which was Maggie Gyllenhaal's directorial debut, that's maybe number 3 on my list. That was with Olivia Colman, about motherhood and sort of what it means to be a mother, and maybe not be the most caring person. Kind of goes into, you switch allegiances. You kind of, at first, you're very sympathetic to her character because you're not exactly sure what happened, and then as her backstory is revealed, then you kind of shift perspectives. But then you shift again as as more and more of the character is revealed. You sort of switch how you feel about her, which I thought was really well done. And Olivia Colman, credit to her that she's able to play a character that.
And I love Maggie. I'm excited she's directing.
Yeah. Ashghar Farhadi's new film called A Hero was good. Not quite up to the level of A Separation, but again, that's a masterpiece. So Come On is the Mike Mills movie. That's Joaquin Phoenix. Overall, it was good. It's another film. There were a number of films about parenthood and sort of how being a parent kind of sucks.
That was another one.
That was another one that of Joaquin Phoenix is.
That's why I'm only a parent of cats.
Yeah, I don't know if it's all these filmmakers that were in lockup with their or lockdown with
their kids. So I know we have to get going. So top 3, then it sounds like was Spencer,
Power of the Dog, which is a Netflix film, and then Lost Daughter, which is also Netflix. Those would be
okay. 3. Those are your top 3. Okay, and the Spencer's coming out to theaters, I think. So
yeah, yep.
Awesome. So I'm going to look forward to seeing all of those. Those sound great. And Red Rocket, of course, as well, because I love Sean Baker. I'm just going to see anything he does, even if it gets bad reviews. But it's getting pretty good. So thank you, Ernie. That was super exciting. I hope you'll come back on the show, whether it's film festival or not, because we seem to gel well on the movies and our snobbery. We could do like, guilty pleasures that even film snobs love or something like that.
Exactly, yeah.
So feel good movies for the snobs. So thank you again for coming on the show. As always, you can go to our website at realfilmsnobs.com. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook and Twitter. I'd like to thank our fantastic crew, especially Brad, Jason, and Brian Hart. As always, we're on CCTV in Salem, Scan TV in Silverton, Corvallis Access Media in Corvallis, KMUZ, and KMWV Radio. Have a great day and great movies.